Exclusion of Laurent Gbagbo from the electoral competition. This is the beginning of the end for the Ouattara regime. The exclusion of Laurent Gbagbo from the 2025 presidential race is not merely an injustice, it is the clear signal that the Ouattara regime has entered its terminal phase. For this decision is not legal, it is political. It does not come from the Constitutional Council, but from the will of a single man. And this desperate gesture, far from consolidating his power, instead seals the irreversible downfall of the Ouattara regime. The despot Ouattara, as everyone knows, personally composed the list of candidates he ordered the Constitutional Council to publish. This travesty left no room for doubt. Laurent Gbagbo, Affi N'Guessan, and Tidjane Tiham were excluded with the stroke of a pen. Three major figures sidelined, not because they failed to meet legal requirements, but because they posed a threat to a trembling regime. Among these arbitrary exclusions, the case of Laurent Gbagbo strikes with symbolic violence. A former president, the living embodiment of the struggle for sovereignty, erased from the competition by the whim of a single man. This is not merely fraud. It is treason, treason against the Republic, treason against the people, treason against history. But in truth, nothing surprising. Alassane Ouattara suffers from the sickness of autocrats, the syndrome of hubris, that intoxication with power that blinds, convincing them they are invincible and can forever defy time and law. Yet history is clear, dictators are always the last to see their fall coming. Nicolae Ceausescu in Romania thought himself untouchable until his execution. Alpha Condé, who swore to rule forever, was torn from his palace in a matter of hours. Robert Mugabe in Zimbabwe, Hosni Mubarak in Egypt, Ben Ali in Tunisia, Mobutu in Zaire, all had locked down their regimes, all believed they controlled their peoples. They all ended up swept away by the tide of history. The tyrant Ouattara, in believing he can silence his adversaries, is in fact accelerating the machinery of his own end. And let there be no mistake, the exclusion of Laurent Gbagbo is not only an insult to the Ivorian people, it is also an affront to the entire West African subregion. The peoples are watching, from Mali to Burkina Faso, from Niger to Senegal. They see that the man who helped blow apart ECOWAS is now ready to strangle his own people. They know that such a project of power confiscation cannot last. Ivorians, already indignant after 10 years of repression and humiliation, will not remain idle. This decision will catalyze their anger, galvanize their resistance, and hasten the hour of reckoning. Yes, the dictator Ouattara must be removed by all means. It is now obvious that no respite must be granted to this regime. To allow Alassane Ouattara to breathe is to prolong the nation's agony. Every day he remains in power is a day stolen from the people, one day too many in the history of Côte d'Ivoire. This dictator has not only confiscated the Republic, he has emptied it of all meaning. Silence, passivity, or resignation would be complicity. The people must understand that they cannot afford to wait, they must act, and act now. Yes, Alassane Ouattara is the worst dictator Côte d'Ivoire has ever known. President Houphouët, despite the excesses some reproached him for, at least maintained stability. President Bédi, with all his flaws, never reached such a level of confiscation. President Gbagbo, despite everything, accepted to submit to the sanction of the ballot box. But Alassane Ouattara knows no limits, massacres in 2010, arbitrary exclusions in 2020, an illegal fourth term, and now the cynical sidelining of all his rivals. He is the prototype of the modern tyrant, ferocious, obsessed, willing to destroy a nation just to cling to his chair. This battle does not concern only those excluded. It also calls out those whom the regime has authorized to run. Simone Iheve Gbagbo, Ahua Don Mello, Jean-Louis Eugene Billon, history is watching you. To participate in this electoral masquerade is to betray the people. It is to offer legitimacy to a dictatorship that deserves nothing but rejection.
You know, this process of submitting your candidacy and having it validated is an important step. But at the same time, it was a difficult step. I note, I am happy and I acknowledge that I was able to overcome this step, succeed in it, and my application was accepted. It is a great victory because it was not so obvious. There are others who were removed from the list. So it is a victory. I thank the Constitutional Council. I listened carefully to their presentation. I saw that the Constitutional Council made a point each time of giving the reasons, all the details that motivated its decision, and when that is the case, things are clear, there is no discussion, there is no debate. I would also like to congratulate them for their work. The next step is now to enter the campaign, to connect with the voters to be fully accepted by all voters, not just by our activists. Because you don't win elections with your activists alone. We win them over with the voters. So, reaching out to voters is one thing. But also, organizing the apparatus that will manage the elections, the campaign team, training, and identifying all the delegates who must be in all the polling stations. They announced 22,000 polling stations, so we need at least 22,000 delegates to man all the polling stations. So there's a lot of work ahead.
By excluding Laurent Gbagbo, Ouattara believes he is consolidating his power. In reality, he has signed the political death certificate of his regime. History has already judged him. What remains is for the people of Côte d'Ivoire to rise up, to remain vigilant, and to refuse the humiliation of a confiscated republic. The time has come to reclaim their destiny and to drive Ouattara from power.
Laurent Gbagbo is not a candidate because he is not on the electoral list. We could have conceded that. But to go so far as to say that Gbagbo was unable to obtain the necessary endorsements is false. You have done well. And it was Don Melo at the last moment who was able to obtain the necessary number of endorsements. In his endorsements, there are no fake ID card numbers. There are no fake voter registration numbers. Don Melo's endorsers are more accurate than Laurent Gbagbo's. Gbagbo did not organize himself well. The PPACI did not organize itself well. They went and took people who had fraudulent voter registration cards and ID cards. Fraudulent voter registration card numbers and ID card numbers. That's what the PPACI did. But Don Melo, at the last minute, who was talking about candidacy and security, was able to gather the necessary documents for each endorsement. There was no criticism of Don Melo's endorsers. You are strong. The RDR, which, at the last moment, decided to present Alassane Ouattara as its candidate, was able to gather its endorsements without any fake ID card numbers or fake voter registration numbers. Nothing. No stain on the RDR's endorsements. And you want us to swallow this. You want Ivorians to swallow this information. Unfortunately, it was Assali Tumoko who paid the price, because Gbagbo and Tiam are not on the electoral list. The RDR knows perfectly well that Ivorian youth would flock to Assali Tumoko. They know deep down that no Ivorian wants the RDR in 2025. The RDR knows that no Ivorian, this conscious youth, will accept that it is still in power, or that Alassane Ouattara is still president in 2025. So to remove all those who could make Ouattara tremble, it was necessary to also strike Assali Tumoko. They are sure that the Ivorians carried Assali Tumoko in their hearts. Now, they will go to the elections with Bilan and Don Melo's puppet to say that Alassane Ouattara won in the first round with the majority, that the RHDP beat the opposition, that the RHDP is in the majority and that Gbagbo was unable to reach the required number of sponsors. Yet, the RHDP, which started its work at night, because it was late at night that they began to make their endorsements, were able to obtain all the necessary endorsements quietly. And this, until Alassane Ouattara is a candidate for the 2025 presidential election. In any case, everyone is watching you. We are watching you. But tell yourself that we are with you until the end. You will feel us. We are still in it. We are together.
Chris Yapi does not lie. Find Chris Yapi on his 2 YouTube channels, his Rumble channel, his TikTok, X, Instagram, VK and Threads accounts.